You will hear a conversation between a customer and a bank employee discussing term deposits. First, look at questions 1 to 4. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 4.
Good morning, Citibank. How may I help you today?
Hi there. I'd like to make an inquiry about term deposits, please.
Certainly, I can help you with that. First, can I have your name?
Sure, it's David 1 Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. And your contact number?
Yes, it's 023 561 055.
Great. Now, just for verification, could you confirm your date of birth?
That's the 18th of February, 1968.
Thanks. Now, let's look at your current term deposit. I see here that you've invested $18,000. What was the term?
2 years.
And do you remember the interest rate?
Yes, it was 3.45% per annum when I signed up.
Okay, let me just check our current term deposit rates for comparison. For a 1-year term, the rate is 3.65%, and for a 2-year term, it's gone up slightly to 3.8%.
Interesting. And what about the minimum deposit required these days?
For new online term deposits, the minimum is $20,000.
Oh, I see. That's a bit higher than what I initially put in.
Now look at questions 5 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 5 to 10.
Now, Mr. Hughes, let me explain a few more details about our current term deposit policies. First, the tax rate applied is 28%.
And what kind of tax is that?
That's the capital gains tax rate.
Right. And do the investment returns vary?
Yes, they do. Returns depend on your salary bracket.
I see.
For example, if your income is between $48,001 and $70,000, the effective return on a 2-year term is 3.75% per annum. But for higher income earners, say from $70,001 to $90,000, the rate is slightly better, at 3.92%.
That's useful to know. And what's the minimum amount I can invest?
The minimum investment is $10,000. Also, there are no hidden fees or charges, which many clients find reassuring.
Good to know. And what are the options for receiving interest?
We offer monthly, quarterly, 6-monthly, or annual payments, whichever suits your needs.
That's flexible. How can I apply?
You can apply online, by phone, or in person at any branch.
This is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
You will hear a talk by a coordinator at the Coastal Discovery Center, giving a tour to a group of visitors. First, look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen carefully and answer questions 16 to 20. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Coastal Discovery Center. We're delighted to have you with us today for our annual Ocean Awareness Weekend. We run lots of workshops and educational programs throughout the year. I believe we had over a dozen last year, but this weekend is definitely our biggest event and attracts visitors from across the region. Let's start inside the main exhibition hall. Over here on the right, you'll see a display showing aerial photographs of the coastline. These date back to the early 1960s when erosion first became a serious concern in this area. The center itself was only founded in 1982, though the initial surveys of this location started around a decade earlier. You can see how much the shoreline has changed over the decades. In the early years, we focused mainly on marine biology, things like coral, fish species, and algae. But gradually, our work expanded. We included studies on seabirds, then tidal patterns and water pollution. In fact, we're currently running a 5-year project monitoring microplastics across the coast. Some of our original research equipment is on display at the back. You'll notice a pair of old diving tanks. Those were actually used by our first underwater team. They're no longer functional, of course, but they're an important part of our story. Today, we're one of the most active environmental research centers in the country. We host over 30 workshops and guided expeditions annually, and we've even won several awards. The most popular activity with school groups is our guided kayak tour, especially popular with teenagers. But if you prefer something calmer, you might enjoy our shoreline nature walk or the documentary screenings held in our eco-theater. Now, a quick note about age guidelines. We use a color-coded wristband system to help you find suitable activities. Green bands mean it's open to all, even toddlers, though supervision is recommended. Orange bands are for ages 10 and above, and red bands indicate a strict minimum height of 130 centimeters. This applies mostly to water-based activities. Unfortunately, we don't have activities for babies under 18 months, but we do have a quiet zone with changing facilities for parents. Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions. Let me tell you a bit more about the food options available. Our main cafe, called the Tidal Bite, is located in the East Wing and offers healthy meals and drinks throughout the day. You'll find everything from vegan wraps to grilled fish. But don't worry if you're in a rush. There are snack stations set up across the center. These sell cold drinks, energy bars, fruit cups, and other light options. All our food outlets use biodegradable packaging and locally sourced produce. Now for the special events. There are 2 headline activities taking place today. First, at midday, we have the Marine Parade, which will take place along the coastal boardwalk. It's led by marine science students from the local university and features models of sea creatures, drumming performances, and even stilt walkers dressed as jellyfish. It's become one of our most colorful traditions. The second major event is the Evening Light Show, which begins at 8:15 p.m. It takes place by the beach and includes illuminated floats, sea-themed projections, and a soundscape of ocean recordings. You'll want to grab a spot by 8 p.m. to get the best view. Before I let you go, a quick word about safety. If you need medical help, we have 2 first aid rooms. The closest one is next to the east entrance, just beyond the information desk. It's marked with a red cross on your map. And if you lose track of your group or get separated, please go to one of our help points. They're marked with a blue circle. Our volunteers will assist you. Make sure you pick up your wristbands, program guide, and map before heading off to explore. Enjoy the day. That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
You will hear a conversation between a design student and a peer tutor discussing a university assignment. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 24.
Hi, Malik. Thanks for meeting with me. I'm a bit overwhelmed with my sustainable housing project. I'm not even sure where to begin.
No problem at all. These projects can seem complex at first. I usually suggest we start by breaking down the task. Have you read through the brief?
Yeah, I did. It says we have to propose a sustainable solution for low-income housing in a tropical region, but I have no idea what counts as a solution.
That's a good place to start. A solution could be anything from a building design to a choice of materials, even a strategy for reducing energy use. Have you ever worked on an environmental design before?
Not really. I took one elective in first year, but it didn't go into much depth, and I've been told we should look at some case studies, but I don't know how to find any.
That's fine. It's common to use case studies in design research. I'll show you how to find them. The best ones are often in journals or archived competition entries. It's good to focus on projects from regions with similar climates.
Like Southeast Asia?
Exactly. And we can also look at some community-driven projects from Latin America or coastal Africa. They might give you ideas for structure and layout.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 25 to 30.
So, let's talk about the actual requirements of your project. Do you remember what the main objective is?
I think we're supposed to create a basic design that's affordable, eco-friendly, and can be built using local materials.
Correct. And have you thought about what sustainable materials might work?
I was thinking bamboo, maybe adobe, but I'm not sure if those meet the structural requirements.
They definitely can, but you'll need to justify them. For instance, adobe has great insulation properties, but doesn't perform well in wet climates. You might want to combine it with raised foundations or protective overhangs.
That makes sense. What about energy sources?
Solar is a go-to, but also consider things like ventilation. Designing windows and roofs to improve airflow can reduce the need for artificial cooling.
Right, passive design. I remember that term now.
Good. And don't forget to explain how your choices support the community's lifestyle, not just environmentally, but socially and economically.
I hadn't thought about the social part, like spaces for cooking or group activities.
Exactly. In many cultures, outdoor kitchens or shared courtyards are important. If your design includes that, it's more culturally appropriate and likely more successful.
Wow, that really helps.
That is the end of section 3. You now
You will hear a talk on the topic of blue light and its effects on human health. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40. Hello, everyone. Today's lecture will focus on a topic that's become increasingly relevant in modern life: the impact of blue light exposure on human health. With the widespread use of digital devices, this topic is receiving more attention than ever before, and for good reason. Let's begin by defining what blue light is. Blue light is a high-energy, short-wavelength light in the visible spectrum. It's naturally present in sunlight and helps regulate our sleep and wake cycles, what we call our circadian rhythm. However, with the rise in screen time from phones, laptops, and televisions, we're now exposed to artificial sources of blue light long after the sun has gone down. So what's the problem with that? Well, research suggests that prolonged exposure to artificial blue light, especially during the evening, can suppress the body's production of melatonin, the hormone responsible for making us feel sleepy. This can delay sleep onset, reduce overall sleep quality, and even lead to chronic sleep deprivation over time. Now, while poor sleep is a significant concern on its own, scientists are beginning to link blue light exposure to other health outcomes as well. For example, some studies indicate that disrupted sleep patterns can increase the risk of metabolic disorders, such as obesity and type 2 diabetes. This is because the body's ability to regulate blood sugar and hormone levels becomes impaired when sleep is insufficient or inconsistent. Another emerging area of concern is eye strain and visual fatigue. Blue light has a shorter wavelength and scatters more easily than other types of visible light, which makes it harder for the eye to focus. This can lead to symptoms such as dry eyes, headaches, and blurred vision, a condition commonly referred to as digital eye strain. Although there is currently no evidence that blue light causes permanent eye damage, the discomfort it produces can significantly affect daily life, especially for people who work in front of screens for long periods. Interestingly, it's not all bad news. There are also benefits to blue light exposure, in moderation. Natural exposure during the daytime is essential for maintaining alertness, improving mood, and even boosting cognitive performance. In fact, certain therapeutic treatments use controlled doses of blue light to help patients with seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, a type of depression that typically occurs during the darker months of the year. Now, in terms of managing the risks of blue light, what can we do? Experts recommend several strategies. The first is the 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes, take a 20-second break to look at something 20 feet away. This helps reduce eye fatigue. Another approach is to limit screen time in the hour or two before bed. Many smartphones and computers now offer a night mode that reduces blue light emission. Using blue light, blocking glasses in the evening is also an option, though their effectiveness is still being studied. Finally, a practical solution is to increase exposure to natural daylight during the day, especially in the morning. This not only helps regulate your internal body clock, but also makes you less sensitive to the effects of artificial blue light at night. To conclude, while blue light is a natural part of our environment and essential for several biological processes, our modern habits have created an imbalance. By being more mindful of our screen usage and making a few lifestyle adjustments, we can enjoy the benefits of blue light while minimizing its potential drawbacks. That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test. You now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the listening answer sheet.